This is the area that is the focus of the controversy right now, the United States border with Mexico. Now, New Mexico is at ground zero of the debate. The nation is divided over what needs to happen here with border security and also immigration.
The United States border with Mexico stretches close to 2,000 miles, almost 200 of it right here in our state. There are 62 places to legally cross between the two countries by land, including right down there at Santa Teresa.
Tonight, we are going deeper than we have ever gone to help you understand what's happening not only here, but all along the southwest border and throughout the United States.
We have a team of reporters, photojournalists, and producers exploring the differences between New Mexico and other border states. We're also listening to your different opinions and finding common ground and places where we can come together in this debate. That's all tonight in this Project Community special. Migration between Mexico and the United States has been happening since before the two countries were, well, countries. But the first documented big wave happened in the 1930s when a labor law was created allowing Mexican workers to come over here to the U.S. for jobs. For years, immigration has been debated, but never like this. Many people point to the presidential campaign in 2016 for heating this issue to the boiling point. Then candidate Donald Trump made promises to build a border wall, and he's trying to keep that promise today. The people who live in this area will tell you it's not just a political rhetoric that has changed over the past few years. Ranchers and farmers say they see a change in the type of people migrating and in the way they are coming to the United States. And as Action 7 News reporter Marissa Armas shows us, their feelings about them have changed as well.
A foil blanket, some snacks, and a juice box is usually what migrants get when they arrive at a U.S. Customs and Border Protection facility.
I'm coming from Honduras, and I came because in my country there aren't opportunities for employment. It's dangerous.
30-year-old Isis Juarez came to the United States with her daughter to seek asylum. Every day they lived in fear.
I can't describe the feelings. It was a dream to get to the United States. It's the dream of many.
A dream for many migrants to live without violence, poverty, and corrupt governments.
There's a lot of crime, a lot of gangs, a lot of needs. And when you have problems in your country, you can't return.
At least 65% of the people crossing the border are families and children from the Northern Triangle, such as Guatemala, El Salvador, and Honduras. When they arrive at the border, most of them present themselves to Border Patrol agents.
I want my daughter to have a better education, a better life for her. And I hope that this year goes better for us.
But migrants hear that achieving that American dream might get harder.
What are you hearing in Honduras about coming to the United States?
We've heard that Trump wants to put up the border wall. That's why many people are coming before.
Customs and Border Protection has seen a more than 370% increase in family apprehensions at the border this fiscal year. The number of apprehensions and encounters they're seeing are higher than they've seen in over a decade. During this time last year, agents apprehended nearly 174,000 people from the southwest border. But this fiscal year, that number more than doubled, hitting 361,000. And that only includes data from October through March.
Unlike historical crossings, which are comprised of a large majority of single adult males from Mexico who could be repatriated quickly, families and children from Central America require increased care and processing and are released into the United States pending adjudication of their immigration claims.
Customs and Border Protection is also seeing more unaccompanied minors coming over.
These increases in traffic are a direct response from smugglers and migrants to the vulnerabilities in our legal system.
While most of the people crossing at the border are families and children, Customs and Border Protection officials say 35% of those caught at the border are single adults trying to avoid agents.
Within that flow are thousands of criminals, smugglers, gang members, and public safety threats that we're sworn to protect this country from.
Public safety threats that ranchers and farmers living in New Mexico's Boot Hills say they see every day.
You can call it a crisis, you can say there's not a crisis, but there is an issue here that's happening, and we're seeing more and more of it.
People living in Hidalgo County say the people they're seeing in their backyards has changed. Now it's men who they describe as aggressive and demanding.
We've always had illegals coming through this valley, always have. But used to, they'd stop in and, hey, can I have some food? But now it's like, you will give me a ride in your truck to Lordsburg, or you will give me your cell phone. I want it. Give it to me.
Cammie Moore's family has owned land near the border for decades.
They were gentle, kind-natured, hardworking. Shoot, they come up and you could tell they're hungry or thirsty, and you'd invite them in your house and give them food.
But now she sees immigrants trespass on her ranch, many leaving trash on her property.
We've had tractors stolen, and my grandparents ended up finding it. We found some bedding in our hay barn where they bed for the night. So they're coming in, they're hiding out in our barns.
Ranchers like Cammie and Chris aren't anti-immigrant, but they say they want people to come to the U.S. legally. They also want better border security. But because of the large groups coming, border resources are stretched thin.
We're redirecting 750 officers from key roles at our ports of entry. We need those officers now, though, to help Border Patrol agents to care for migrants.
While the face of the migrant has changed and the need for security at our border increases, many believe we've reached our breaking point at the border. Reporting from the border, Marissa Armas, KOAT Action 7 News.
The large groups of migrants from Central America started showing up at the New Mexico border in November of last year, and it's continuing now.
And in many cases, the migrants are not showing up near ports of entry. Many are showing up in rugged areas just like this, and that's creating challenges for counties all along the border.
We spent a night at a remote border station near Antelope Wells, and we were there when women and children from Guatemala arrived in freezing weather, carrying just a blanket.
It's different nowadays. Now you're dealing with families. You're dealing with kids, you're dealing with babies, you're dealing with, non-Mexican nationals.
Migrants who try to immigrate in rural areas are taken about an hour and a half away to Lordsburg, and after that it can take days before they're moved to an immigration facility. One county manager was so overwhelmed, she wrote a letter to the governor asking for help. That letter in itself became pretty divisive. Hidalgo County is in the boot heel of the state, and the county manager said they didn't have enough sheriff's deputies and paramedics to manage all of the emergency calls they were getting from landowners who are worried about migrants on their property. She said there were areas where there were unsanitary conditions because porta potties had been set up for all of the migrants and they weren't being cleaned. Some of the governor's cabinet members did visit the area, but it was weeks before the governor responded to the call for help and sent state police officers to help patrol the area.
Why did the response take so long? Well, it didn't take long. People were on the ground. I disagree with that.
There needs to be some resolution to the wall issue, the border issue, the immigration issue. There has to be a solution, and it can't be at our level. It's going to have to be much higher than us.
The governor and the county manager want the border to be safer for New Mexicans. Michelle Lujan Grisham wants changes to parts of the border in the boot heel of New Mexico, like improvements to the roads and fences to stop vehicles from driving through. They're all changes the county manager thinks is a step in the right direction to making her county safer.
What is clear from spending time in these communities near Mexico is the people here are divided. Some want a wall and some say it's a waste of money. But you hear a common theme from folks on both sides. The immigration system is broken.
Tonight, as we try to bring the two sides together, we wanted to find out what's really happening at the ports of entry, the places where people and goods can legally come into the United States. Anchors Todd Kurtz and Royal Day are in Albuquerque with that part of this complex border issue.
Thank you, Doug and Kelly. I spent a day at the busiest port of entry in the state to see what is actually making its way into our country.
A lot of the things grown in Mexico end up on our plates here in Albuquerque. Up next, we check out the steps produce goes through to make sure it's safe for you and to make sure nothing illegal is making its way through the border. Project CommUNITY is a year-long commitment from Action 7 News to explore the divided opinions on border security and immigration. We are searching for areas where there's common ground in this debate.
And one of the most interesting examples of that is in U.S. Customs and Border Protection. According to that agency, more than half of Border Patrol agents are Latino. Many times they're enforcing United States immigration laws on people who are from the same country where they or their parents were born. Border Patrol agents we spoke with say for them this is a career and their ethnicity should not play a part in it.
I am, just like you said, Latino, Hispanic descent. Both my parents are immigrants. Both of them are now naturalized U.S. citizens. My oldest sibling, she went to school in Mexico and she's also a naturalized U.S. citizen. But I mean, at the end of the day, we're a law enforcement agency.
I didn't take this job because of a race, because of my culture. I took this job because I have an interest in protecting peoples and protecting my country.
We wanted to find out exactly what those Border Patrol agents are dealing with each day, and our journalists had unprecedented access.
Yeah, the United States and Mexico trade billions in products each year. I spent the day at one of the busiest ports of entry in New Mexico watching how that trade happens. It's a busy day inside Garcia's as the team at the San Mateo location greets customers.
Hello, welcome to Garcia's.
Serving up the restaurant's signature homemade New Mexican food. And in the back, in these boxes, plenty of avocados that will be turned into guacamole and garnished. But the journey to get this fruit here began days earlier and hundreds of miles away at the Santa Teresa port of entry.
At 8 o'clock in the morning, we opened that gate.
Located 42 miles south of Las Cruces and 20 minutes from downtown El Paso. With little congestion and short lines, Santa Teresa is the preferred driving route to Ciudad Juarez and further into Mexico. And for travelers heading north, this port provides convenient and faster access to New Mexico. But it's not just people who move through here. Plenty of agricultural products go through Santa Teresa too.
We have the onions, we have the cotton, tomatillo. The chile season is actually pretty busy.
Also, avocados and tomatoes, to name a few more. A lot of food comes through here. Up to 30 semis of each product a day, depending on which season it is. A USDA inspector looks over each load, making sure everything is certified to be in the U.S.
This is the place where these semis are going to be inspected. Now, officers can do that a few ways. They can use canines, or these semis could get x-rayed. The officers who work at this port of entry want to make sure nothing illegal gets through, because if it does, it could have a very large and negative impact on our agricultural system.
We know that we're protecting the agriculture of the United States because we're still very much an agricultural nation, especially in this area. We don't want to, cross-contaminate.
So much food moves through this place. This side of this port is for commercial rigs only.
The way to get here is a lot faster, yes, because you don't have to deal with the traffic.
And when it's harvest season in Mexico,
it's a busy season for the agricultural inspectors, yes. And of course, we do assist with the inspection because for the infestations of, bugs or insects or anything like that.
Most of the semis that move through this port of entry go from gate to gate. And what that means is they're pre-vetted. They're familiar with the officers who work here every day. It's pretty similar to what you see at the airport with TSA pre-check.
And the quicker those trucks get through,
we have our avocados that come from Mexico.
The faster they can get to Segovia's Distributing, a produce wholesaler and retailer in Albuquerque.
These are the ripe avocados. Okay.
Wow. Every day, loads and loads of tomatoes, onions, and avocados from Mexico arrive to this warehouse off of Manal.
These fruits and vegetables move really fast. They'll arrive in this warehouse in the morning, and by the end of the day, they're at Albuquerque restaurants and other businesses.
Wow, this is a lot of avocados.
Yes, we have this is the large avocados. We have the small avocados here.
Right now, the big seller, avocados. And at this time, Segovia is getting them all from Mexico. Ronnie Delgado works for the company in sales. He says buying from Mexico is good for their customers.
It's very important. It gives us a choice. It can be more economical and we can pass on a better deal to the public. We get trucks in daily, semis, but we sell about 800, 900 cases of avocados a week.
Plenty of those cases go to Garcia's 7 locations across the city. They've been in business for more than 4 decades, and Dan Garcia, the VP of Operations, says Mexico plays a key role in their food service.
Well, the main thing that we get right now is our avocados and our jalapenos. And they're very important because everybody loves them and they go on a lot of our foods, our flautas, our burgers, guacamole and chips, of course.
And getting the fruit from Segovia's allows Garcia's to keep prices reasonable.
They play a big part in our business because if their prices go up, then our prices go up.
And cheaper avocados are very important. Garcia's uses a lot of them.
We get about 45, 50 cases a week. So that's about 200 a month times 12, about 25, maybe 3,000 cases or more, because we also have our catering department.
It's food that's made a long journey. Agricultural products from Mexico moving through ports of entry are a big part of the activity here. And this is just the beginning, as it makes a long trip north.
The Mexican government estimates it exports about $7 billion worth of vegetables a year. Its top export, though, is vehicles, making up about 26% of everything the country exports.
Yeah, not just produce going through the Santa Teresa crossing, hundreds of thousands of cattle do too. The area was actually first built to process livestock between Mexico and the United States. The stockyards span both sides of the border, and USDA inspectors make sure the animals are healthy and disease-free before being allowed into the United States.
About 60 miles away from the Santa Teresa crossing, there's another port of entry that's open 24 hours a day in Columbus. Hundreds of cars and people pass through this port every day, and all of those cars must be inspected.
Action 7 News reporter Sasha Leninger got a look at the technology used to make sure everything that's coming into the United States is legal.
Customs and Border Patrol officers at the Columbus Port of Entry are never surprised by what they find hidden in cars. The most common things people try to smuggle into the United States: illegal drugs and medicine.
What are you bringing with you?
But sometimes they find the uncommon.
And I was just searching the car. They had it inside a roll of toilet paper, the tube.
Inside that tube, a rare parrot. But even more unusual,
They get the parrot drunk.
smugglers likely gave it alcohol to keep it quiet while passing into the U.S.
You see about 1,000 vehicles a day.
Customs officers here are on their toes for anything. The Columbus Port of Entry is about 32 miles south of Deming. 71 officers and staff working around the clock. It's the only port of entry in New Mexico that's open 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
How you doing?
When you get here to the border, this is your first stop. You'll give an agent your documents, but sometimes some vehicles have to go through an extra search.
We don't x-ray all the cars, so it has to be a reason why we do it.
The reason? An officer senses something is off, whether it be with the body of the car or the story the person is telling them.
They start coming through here. We try to keep them at 3 to 5 miles an hour.
As the car drives, technology kicks in. An X-ray does a scan, and it shows up in real time on a screen.
Density will look real dense, you know, the shape. You could see the bundles along the side of the quarter panels if they just have bundles. If it's a metal container, you're going to see the squared off or the shape of the container.
If everything is clear, the car is let through. But if something looks irregular, officers will do another inspection.
They're parked over here, and then we get everybody out of the vehicle, and we take them over here to our waiting area. And someone searches the vehicle, someone takes care of the passengers.
With these inspections, officers have more tools in their belt, like this scope.
You actually put it into where you want to look into the compartment, whether it be the air vents or the gas tank, sometimes behind the seat.
It fits into small areas that can be tricky to get into.
I had quite a few seizures in gas tanks with using the scope.
Or officers can take the car apart.
Now we have this dismantle area, which we could work in either heat it or cool it down if we have to.
The garage equipped with a lift, tools, and this airtight box to safely handle toxic materials and drugs. If they think they found drugs, they test it.
You take a small sample and it changes colors according to what you have in here.
Or they can use this newer, more advanced test.
This is a Gemini, and it tells you what the narcotic is.
The officer would collect a small sample and then stick it into the machine.
It's going to detect whatever the chemical is,
pinpointing the type of drug. They say this technology is fantastic because before what they had to do was all manually. They would have to knock on doors just like this to see and hear if there were any anomalies.
And everybody would wonder why we tapped, because you're trying to hear the sound, different sound of a gas tank or the tire or whatever was tapped.
Dogs are also used to sniff out drugs. People wanting to cross aren't always in cars. On average, 900 pedestrians cross into the U.S. through this port of entry daily. Of that, 600 are students coming to the U.S. for a better education. The rest are tourists, or people coming back home after a visit to the dentist or a pharmacy.
As the person walks up, you're able to take their fingerprint right there, and that information is related to the computer, and you could compare it. Tells you that document does belong to this person.
The Columbus Port of Entry is the newest in the state. Before today, the old Port of Entry was 5 acres, located just 3 car lengths from the border.
Back in the day when the shootings was real bad in Mexico, a couple of the shots hit one of the flagpoles and stuff. That's how close we were.
Now, this huge complex covers 25 acres and is 3 times further away for officer safety. At the Columbus Port of Entry, I'm Sasha Leninger. Back to you.
The newly renovated Columbus Port of Entry reopened October 29th. Total cost of the renovation was about $96 million.
You can join the discussion right now on our KOAT Facebook page. If you're interested in learning more about the border security and immigration debate, visit our website, KOAT.com, and look under the Project Community tab. Well, the debate over whether we need a barrier on the border is a fierce one. Let's go back to Doug and Shelley at one barrier in our state in Santa Teresa.
Coming up, we'll take you to a border city with no border or immigration debate.
Why keeping the peace between the two countries isn't an issue, as our Project Community special continues next.
When we hear about border issues, it's almost always about the southern border with Mexico. But to the north, the United States border with Canada at more than 5,500 miles is nearly 3 times as long.
In fact, it is the longest land border between any two countries in the world. We wanted to know, with such a massive border, why is there so little debate about immigration and border security there? So we went to find out what's so different.
It is the longest international border in the world, 5,500 miles separating the United States with Canada, twice as long as our border with Mexico, but with far fewer patrol agents than our southern border, around 2,000 compared with almost 20,000. So is our border with Canada vulnerable? Depends on who you ask and where you ask it. In this small Vermont town,
the border goes right through it.
It shares more than just a border, because the border goes right through the library, which is also home to an opera house. Bob Kelly is the town administrator of Derby Line, Vermont. Population, less than 5,000.
It just happens to be that the stage is on the Canadian side, so the performance is being done in Canada, and most of the seats are on the U.S. side. So you're in the United States watching a performance in Canada.
For centuries, people in this small town haven't given much attention to the unique landmarks, like the library, that sit on the border between Canada and the United States, including the line that runs right down the middle of a main road in Derby. Some people have actually referred to it as Can USA Avenue, practically making Derby Line, Vermont, and Stansted, Quebec, one place, just a few hundred feet apart. Snow and just these concrete markers were dividing the two countries when we visited. But in the warmer months, the line is marked by these infamous potted plants there. Kelly grew up in Derby Line and says he's seen a significant increase in policing at the port of entry near Interstate 91, half a mile away, that started after 9/11.
Scrutiny coming across the border is greatly increased. When we were kids, you'd just ride your bikes across the road down any of the streets.
And today, he says, there's still that similar sense of calm and camaraderie for the most part.
I mean, they still cooperate with each other. The village of Derby Line and the village of Stansted across the border, they share a water system, they share the sewer system. There's mutual aid between the fire departments. You know, if they need one on the other side of the border, they come and help out. So, I mean, everybody still gets along real good.
Just not much talk about the border and day-to-day life here, he says, nor much concern about it either.
We don't have much crime as it is, so no, I don't think that really affects us. Most of them that are coming across are going someplace else. I mean, there's not much here.
But there is a growing concern about the dramatically increasing number of arrests along other areas of the Canadian border in the last year. According to the latest numbers from U.S. Customs and Border Protection, in fiscal year 2018, there were 4,316 apprehensions. Compared to the number of arrests along the Mexican border at just under 400,000, it doesn't seem that significant. But that 4,316 is a 42% increase from the previous year. And the number of people crossing into the United States illegally from Canada also up. In fiscal year 2017, 504. Fiscal year 2018, 963 people. One of the places seeing the largest increase of arrests is the area near the Detroit border. In fact, according to a Border Patrol agent who spoke to ABC News, one described a, quote, sophisticated smuggling operation based in Canada that regularly sneaks illegal immigrants, particularly Chinese, into the United States by way of Detroit. And according to recent numbers from the U.S. government, more than half of the illegal immigrants arrested last year as they traveled from Canada to the U.S. were Mexican citizens. Kelly says everyone's aware the border is under constant surveillance.
You'll hear helicopters flying the border, and I'm Sure, they got cameras at strategic places.
Well, my perspective is I guarantee they'll start closing down some of these borders.
But still, they consider their Canadian neighbors to be like extended family and view the situation along the U.S.-Mexico border as completely different from what they're experiencing.
Oh, it's night and day. You know, you see down there and it's more, I don't know, like maybe hardcore, as you would say. And over here it's more friendly, I feel. And, you know, it's all family oriented. We'd go over there, we share like the hockey rinks over there and stuff, and they come over here and share our stuff. And it's different.
But residents of Derby anticipate more change, more heightened security to come. Derby's town administrator hopes that won't mean brick and mortar.
There's no need for a wall like they're talking about on the Mexican border, at least that's my opinion.
It really is amazing just to hear the difference of what's going on up there at the Canadian-U.S. border, you know, compared to down here. It really sounds like the complete opposite.
And when the answer seems to be a potted plant about that high, it is very, very surprising.
It is hard to visualize just what the border looks like as it goes across the bottom of New Mexico. But you can imagine at 180 miles long in our state, it takes on a much different look depending on where you are.
From rocky mountainous areas to vast open spaces, it is a diverse terrain. Action 7 News reporter Marissa Armas explains how that terrain helps decide what, if any, type of barrier like this is needed.
180 miles of international border between New Mexico and Mexico. Some of it closed off by steel walls, other areas just barbed wire fences. Doña Ana, Luna, and Hidalgo are the 3 New Mexico counties that border Mexico. In Hidalgo County, the two countries share an 81-mile stretch of border. Several miles of that is Normandy fencing. Dozens of miles of that perimeter is only barbed wire.
That is all of the barrier within Hidalgo County along our border.
In the Boot Hill, much of the border is on private land. Many of the ranchers installed the barbed wire fences themselves. Rugged terrain is also an issue.
I don't see out in this area, out in Hidalgo County, where a wall would be where you would even be able to put a wall up. And most of the places, I mean, there's a lot of rough terrain.
A few miles east, Luna County shares about 54 miles of border with Mexico. Normandy fencing, post and rail vehicle barriers, steel fences, and barbed wire are the different structures the county has in place.
The barbed wire is the weakest link in our portion of the border.
And to the east of Luna is Doña Ana County, where they share 45 miles of border with Mexico. Most of the county has a structure in place along the border. Here you'll mostly see Normandy fencing or 18-foot-tall steel barriers, such as in Santa Teresa and Sunland Park.
While most of the New Mexico border has some sort of barrier in place, there are several mountainous areas like this one, where putting up fencing or a wall would be tough.
There are areas along the border where there's absolutely nothing in place, such as near Mount Cristo Rey and the Geronimo Trail. But Border Patrol agents say mountains serve as natural barriers.
The wall, the fence, the infrastructure, whatever we want to call it, it's part of a mixture of things that we need. It's not just it.
Agents do believe we need some sort of barrier installed at every mile along our border to slow down traffic or to prevent vehicles from crossing over.
A lot of people will argue that maybe we should do a virtual fence, you know, with cameras, with technology.
A virtual wall would do great things, but agents like Ramiro Cordero say you still need the hands to do the work on the ground.
There's no camera that I have seen that will climb off the pole or wherever it's at and apprehend somebody that's committed a crime. They're just good for seeing.
Whether it's a steel fence separating the two countries, post and rails, or a string of barbed wire, the controversial debate on how exactly to secure our border continues.
Reporting from Sunland Park, Marissa Armas, KOAT Action 7 News.
We have all heard about the price of the wall and the battle over whether it can be built on state land. Well, we have heard from one rancher in the Boot Heel of New Mexico who said he is seeing so many migrants a day on his land, he is willing to donate 8 miles of his property so a wall can be built there.
Tonight in our year-long effort with Project Community, we're exploring the divisive issues with the border and immigration debate and searching for ways both sides can come together.
Now, New Mexico is one of 4 states that shares a border with Mexico, along with Texas, California, and Arizona. Each one faces different challenges and takes a different approach to handling the border. Now, depending on where you live, your views may be drastically different.
Action 7 News reporter Shelby Cashman went to California to give us some perspective.
It's another sunny day on Imperial Beach in San Diego, California. But the waves here don't just crash onto pristine white sand. They crash into thousands of pounds of steel separating the U.S. from Mexico.
We see smuggling attempts all the time coming through panga-style fishing boats and pleasure crafts.
The Pacific Ocean poses a unique challenge for the San Diego sector of Border Patrol, and it's different than any other southwest border state.
It's actually a very dangerous method of trying to smuggle aliens in.
So far this year, the Maritime Unit has apprehended 248 people. 3 have died.
They have total disregard for human life coming through maritime.
From oceans to mountains.
This is the right way to do it.
Of San Diego's 60 miles of border, like New Mexico, 14 are being transformed.
We have something called the Border Infrastructure System.
But it's not one wall, it's 2.
You may recognize something like this, an 18-foot steel barrier. What you won't recognize is this, another 30-foot steel barrier just feet in front of the other.
This 30-foot bollard, it gives us a lot more time, especially when you have that primary and secondary wall.
More time to catch migrants before they can be absorbed into the hustle and bustle of big city life. A stark difference from New Mexico's more rural borders.
They can get into vehicles, into the freeway, and then they can try to go north.
A challenge Border Patrol in San Diego has been battling for decades.
It was chaos.
Thousands of migrants running across busy freeways, camping out in open fields after crossing into the U.S., cooking and playing soccer. There were not enough Border Patrol agents to stop them. This was life on the border here in the 80s and 90s.
You're not going to cut that within 40 seconds like people can cut this old secondary wall.
We've reached the end of the border wall, and like parts of New Mexico, what makes it challenging to continue to build is this treacherous terrain. What is not like New Mexico is what's over here. That's Tijuana, the second most populated border city with nearly 2 million people.
2 major cities, 2 different countries, a whole new set of challenges. The San Diego sector makes around 172 apprehensions per day.
It's extremely populated on the U.S. side, and there's so many freeways close to the border.
But what about people who want to come to the U.S. legally?
The San Isidro Port of Entry is the busiest land port of entry in the Western Hemisphere, with more than 100,000 people who cross every day. But where most people see chaos, one man sees opportunity.
I grew up crossing the border in our 49 Chevy.
Miguel Aguirre spent his childhood going to visit family in Mexico. Even as a kid, he had a dream to open a business right where 2 countries meet. That dream became a reality 20 years ago. He owns a McDonald's right across from the port of entry.
What are the unique characteristics of each port of entry that could create to a socioeconomic platform?
Miguel and his research group, Border Fusion, want to change the narrative around ports of entry.
It all begins with transportation centers, like we have here.
Step out of Mexico and onto U.S. soil here, you are greeted by a light rail, a long-haul bus, a line of taxis. Miguel hopes to use the San Isidro Port of Entry as a model for more rural border crossings.
What happens if you put a little market next to that transportation, a little hotel next to it? All of a sudden you're starting to create economic activity.
Economic activity like this, a massive outlet mall connected to the border wall. Miguel calls it a border-tropolis.
We need to have more positive narratives.
In order for Miguel's vision to take shape, Border Patrol here, like in New Mexico, say they need to address securing the border first. California is also dealing with an influx of migrants from Central America. And they believe the new double wall system is the best way to start.
That's the ideal system.
In San Diego, Shelby Cashman, KOAT Action 7 News.
According to Customs and Border Protection, after fencing was installed near San Diego and the border with Mexico, they saw a 75% decline in illegal border crossings.
As we've been showing you tonight, the border is one of the most divisive issues our nation faces right now.
Next, we sit down with people on both sides of the issue to see where their differences are and where they can all agree.
Border and immigration issues dominate the headlines right now, and they're some of the most divisive issues of the past decade. There are widely varying opinions on the topics, but also some common ground. We're going to explore both of those. Tonight, we're bringing together people from both sides as we work to keep a discussion open in our community. Joining me here in studio now is Roxy De Santiago. She is an immigration attorney. Coy Griffin, Otero County Commissioner and founder of Cowboys for Trump. Chris Massey, a farmer in Hidalgo County in the Boot Heel of New Mexico. And Jorge Rodriguez with the ACLU's Border Rights Office, who was born and raised near the border in southern New Mexico. So guys, let's start off with a more broad question for each of you here too. What is the border immigration issue about? Coy, if you'll start us off.
You know, it's just about a crisis as far as I'm concerned. The influx of migrants that we're having right now, just this last month alone, was 103,000 that were apprehended along our southern border. And if you put that in a relevance platform, you know, if you were to contain that 103,000 into one city, that would be the second largest city in New Mexico, population greater than Las Cruces.
Chris, anything to add?
Not really. I mean, it's exactly what Coy said. I just feel, in my personal opinion, there is a crisis on the border and certain things need to be addressed, and it just doesn't seem like politicians are coming together to address these issues. And whatever side you're on, it's about the American people, and we need to come together.
Roxy, do you see it as a crisis?
I see it as a humanitarian crisis. I think these people are running away from all kinds of issues, and they're coming to a land that we have worked very hard to make sure that it's the land of opportunity. And we have always been a nation of immigrants, and I think it's a time in our nation when we need to decide if we're going to continue to be a nation of immigrants and be a welcoming nation, or if we're going to change and be something different. And
Jorge with the ACLU.
Yes, well, the only crisis we see is the moral crisis, right? And really the inhumane and cruel policies that are being practiced in the border region, and basically the dehumanization of migrants.
Most people seem to agree that something needs to be done with the immigration system. Jorge, just to piggyback on what you were just saying right there, what do you see is working right now?
Well, what we need to see more of is we need to see a better trust within communities and everyone in the community, along with local law enforcement. Unfortunately, we're not seeing that trust because what we're seeing and documenting is that local law enforcement tends to be working with immigration or with federal or enforcing immigration laws. So a step that we can take is to make sure that we have a better trust with everyone in the community and local law enforcement, and that local law enforcement is not enforcing immigration law.
Working along the border, I don't know what exactly is working, but I want to make the case that we're not anti-immigration. You know, we're a nation that believes in immigrants. We know that we need immigrants in order to remain healthy and viable. So I agree with y'all, but what we want is we want legal processed immigrants to come into our country. The way it's working now with unsecured borders, out of that 103,000 that were apprehended, 92,000 of those were apprehended between ports along an unsecured border. We have no processes to vet those people, and they're not just Mexican immigrants, but they're mostly Central American, but there's over 50 countries that are represented in that population. And whenever you have immigrants coming in from Middle Eastern countries, Asian countries, Eastern European countries, we don't have a process in place to properly vet those people.
I would agree. We should have a process in place. The laws already exist that say if an individual presents themselves at the border, they should be processed and determine whether or not asylum exists and whether or not they are eligible for credible fear and asylum into the United States. But that process is not being followed currently by the administration, whether it's because they don't have enough agents or whether it's because there are too many people showing up at the border. But we do have a process. We just need to be able to follow that process.
How could that be followed?
We need more people to do credible fear interviews. We need an ability for these individuals to be able to present their cases in front of immigration courts. We need more immigration judges because currently immigration courts are backlogged by years.
Let's move on here to what you would like to see physically at the border, right? The border wall. Is this something that should be put in place?
Yes. And we need a physical barrier, and that's not to say you put up a wall with no gates. Everybody should be allowed to come into a gate, but you have to have a central location to where they're not just coming in at any point in time they want, in any location they want. There needs to be a gate, there needs to be a process to come in where we allow them, because we are a sovereign nation.
Well, I think what we need to focus on is that a border wall will not make us any safer. I think we can all agree that we want safe communities. However, the only thing a border wall will do is destroy the environment, affect wildlife, a waste of taxpayer money, and basically just further entrench the racism and xenophobia that exists in this country.
I'd like to say something really quick. It's not a race issue. I don't care if you're a white European.
Absolutely.
If you're here illegally, you're here illegally. I don't care what race you are. I don't care what nation you come from. If you come here illegally, you're an illegal.
Absolutely. And the wall, it could be better presented as a wall of security. It's not the Great Wall of China from sea to shining sea. It's steel slats, it's infrastructure, it's technology, but we have to see, it's more important than the wall is the message that we send out to South America that our nation is secure, that you no longer can enter in, because right now the headlines across all of South America is that it's green light go, and right now all of our agents are stuck on the border while our checkpoints in my county are open. I talked to an undercover agent the other night that said the stash houses in El Paso are being unloaded right now through unsecured
It seems to be a sticking point because the message is often the concern on both sides, but the message that wants to be delivered is different, like Jorge was talking about. Roxy, anything you would like to add?
Yeah, I mean, here's the hard part, right? Is that a wall is not going to change the fact that these people are coming up necessarily. What they believe is, what the law actually says in the United States is if you present yourself at a point of entry, you are then given an asylum process. And what we are doing at those point of entries that actually exist is turning them away. So they've come up thousands of miles, so they see that their only other option is to get in through the other side, because they know that if they get in at the other side, then we have no choice but to take them into detention. So if we actually did our job at the point of entry, then we wouldn't have the other individuals coming in through unmanned locations.
Also, too, I've personally been at the ports of entry. I've personally asked agents at the ports, and they've stated, no, we are not taking asylum seekers here, right? And as a person of color living in the border region, born and raised, the only time I've ever felt fear is actually attempting to exercise my rights at a checkpoint. I can't even go to the movies. I take my cousins to the movies. Going home, I have to cross a checkpoint. I'm going to come in contact with federal armed agents. And because of my skin color, because of who I am, my existence, that's going to perpetuate the type of experience I have. So the scope of questioning goes beyond my citizenship status. Where are you going? Where are you coming from? Are you coming from Mexico? Do you have drugs?
I'll be honest though, I've been asked the same exact questions. Where are you going? And my answer is, it's none of your business where I'm going. I'm an American citizen. Sure. That's your answer.
But you will be treated differently.
But most of the agents,
I appreciate you said that, because I attempted to exercise my rights. I was surrounded by agents that had their hands on their weapons, and instinctively I had to tell my little cousin, put your hands up. Don't make any sudden movements. And I started recording for my own safety, and the minute I started recording, the agents realized I was recording, they let me go. So the fear and the shame is real. The fear and the shame is real.
Yes, sir, but most of the agents where I'm at are of Hispanic descent. Most of the agents that are working the checkpoints are Hispanic. So for you to try to make the case that it's of your color and because you're brown, I don't think that holds water.
Obviously, this is a contentious issue, right? It gets everyone's blood boiling. There's got to be some common ground, though. Where are we finding the common ground, right, on each side?
I strongly think there is common ground. I agree there needs to be more availability for immigration judges. I agree that there should. But there shouldn't be this incentive that, well, once we cross, we're here. Now, what do you do at that point?
But that's not the incentive at all. I think that there is a misconception about what the immigration system does. In fact, the El Paso Immigration Court only approves 2% of asylum cases. It's one of the worst immigration approval rates in the nation.
How about common ground, though?
But common ground, I mean, I think the common ground is that we need to improve our system. We need better asylum officers. We need to reform our asylum system. We need better immigration courts. We probably need a really good guest worker program. If they're economic immigrants that are coming in and we could give them a good program where they could come into work and they could go back to their nation, then we wouldn't have people that feel that they're stuck in the United States.
I think the common ground is just on the laws that are already in place. We just need to enforce the laws that are in place right now. And if it is in regards to asylum, let's allow those asylum seekers to come into our nation, as long as there are solid grounds for asylum, as long as it's fleeing persecution from religious or political.
We need policy change, and policy change needs to take into account the humanity and the reasons of why people are coming, and we need laws that meet the context of the current society or world that we live in right now.
Thank you.
We are going to be doing at least 3 more specials on these topics throughout the year. We want to get the 4 of you back here again this year too, so we can continue this debate. Thank you all for being here again. Let's go over to Royal Day now.
We've been talking with many of these people and others just like them all year long. We're sharing their stories as we dig into the border controversy. To see what we have already uncovered, go to KOAT.com and click the Project Community tab. Now let's check back in with Doug and Shelley in Santa Teresa.
We know there's a big divide on these issues in our community, so how do we come together? We're looking for people across New Mexico who are reaching out to the other side to bring people to a common ground. If you know someone who's trying to bring some unity to the debate, please let us know on KOAT's Facebook page.
More from the border in this Project Community special coming up next. Today, one of the main issues at the border, drugs coming into the U.S. illegally. But we wanted to know just what is coming across and how much. We spoke with a border protection employee who's been working along the border for 25 years to find out. Illegal drugs coming across the Mexico border. Criminals trying to get their products into the U.S.
Traditionally, we've seen marijuana coming from Mexico, but now we're starting to see cocaine, heroin, meth. And so that's, you know, it's evolving.
And the fact he said they're seeing more of it means they're catching more of it. The most recent Border Patrol stats show since October 1st, 2018, agents confiscated 26,291 pounds of cocaine, 1,749 pounds of heroin, 96,000 plus pounds of pot, and 20,848 pounds of meth. That in addition to 708 pounds of fentanyl.
It's all about money for them as well. It's a business.
And the U.S. government is now and always has been in the business of trying to put drug smugglers out of business. One way, try and stay ahead of all the ways the bad guys try to get the bad stuff in.
There isn't a common way. It's, you know, deep seal concealments within the vehicles, on the person, the soles of their shoes. I mean, if you can imagine it, they've done it.
Instead of ports of entry, many smugglers go to rural areas of the border like in Hidalgo County in the boot heel of New Mexico. This is where the small village of Antelope Wells was in the headlines. Large groups of hundreds of migrants were going there to a small border station to seek asylum. Those large groups demand the attention of Border Patrol agents, and the county manager there suspects drug cartels are using these groups to distract the agents so they can smuggle drugs into the U.S.
They choose where they're going to go and how much they're going to attempt. Our job is to, you know, enforcement, national security, and ensure that we intercept it here. We have to get it right every time.
According to last year's National Drug Threat Assessment, Mexico is the primary source of heroin in the United States. With addiction and overdoses on the rise in the U.S., it is more important than ever to catch drug traffickers. Much of the debate over whether to build a border wall has focused on drugs. Some say it would stop smugglers. Others believe they would still find a way in.
This is our career. This is what we do. But it all comes down to personal, because anything that comes into our country, it'll affect our families, our children, you know, our neighbors. So it's important what these officers do each and every day.
Both sides agree, though, the illegal drug business is killing Americans, and something has to be done to keep the drugs out of the U.S. So what do they do with all the illegal drugs they do find at checkpoints? Well, they have a massive incinerator to get rid of them. Customs and Border Patrol does not just work at sites along the border. They also have stations in airports to monitor people and goods coming in on international flights.
Many of you have walked past a port of entry and never even knew it. Customs and Border Protection runs the port of Albuquerque at the Sunport.
Right now, there is one flight every other week from Guadalajara. The international travelers go to the port to get their luggage, and a machine matches them with their passports, and they are questioned by officers.
The machines allow us to take the biometrics of everyone coming in without the officers having to do it at the booth. So the administrative part is finished, and the officers can simply focus on an interview and move the people through much quicker.
In June, another direct flight to Mexico will be added. The office is also used for what's called Global Entry. It's a program that pre-approves travelers arriving in the United States. You go through an interview process to make sure you're a low-risk traveler. It can make your trip through customs a lot faster. The officers at the Albuquerque Port of Entry do about 8,000 of these interviews a year. More from the border in this Project Community special coming up next.
It has been really insightful spending time here, learning what's crossing both legally and illegally, and hearing from the people who live and work here every day. We are trying to understand the perspectives on both sides of the border security and immigration debate, and we are just getting started. Each Wednesday on Action 7 News, we will bring you a Project Community report exploring the different areas of division and finding what common ground there is on both sides of the debate.
Yeah, you'll see more specials like this year, focusing on the people living on the border. And you'll hear about how the immigration debate isn't just happening here, it is happening across New Mexico. We are searching the state for people who are reaching through the controversy to bring both sides together. We want to know if you know someone who fits that description.
You can find more of our stories about the border security immigration debate on KOAT.com under the Project Community tab and on the KOAT app.
Thank you for joining us tonight. It's an important topic that impacts us all, and we look forward to bringing you more stories from the border in the coming year. From all of us here at KOAT Action 7 News, good night.